Everybody, how we doing today? So I made a video the other day about, how to make the maps, and the two things that I see commonly asked throughout the group is people asking people to make maps for them, and people asking to make stadiums. We've got a lot of people out there that have taken it under their wing to learn how to make it on their own. Thomas, you've done a great job of, providing the maps for people, but what I want to do is I want to teach people. The old adage, you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. Teach a man to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime. So there's a lot of people out there donating their time to making maps for people, making stadium files for people. And we've got a great collection so far. So thank you to all of you who have contributed to the group. And for the people that are requesting, myself, I'm getting a lot of requests to do maps. Thomas, I can only imagine what your inbox is like. And then we've got some other people coming into the play too. So I want to teach you guys how I do it. By no means is mine the right way. By no means is mine the only way. I'm sure people are going to have issues with the way that I do it. And I'm sure, people are going to like the way that I do it. So it's all up to you. Every step of my process can be tweaked any way to how you want your stadium to look or how you want your map to look. So it's up to you. But the basic point of this video is to teach you guys. There's a lot of tools that I'm going to use that some people didn't even know were possible. I didn't know. It took me, months of using Lightburn before I found, something such as the node editor and how to use it correctly. And by no means am I an expert in Lightburn. I'm not claiming to be that by any means, but I'm just showing you what I do for my files. So the first thing we got to do is we got to find a seating chart. That's what I take as the basis of my stadium maps. So let's go here. We'll open a new window, go to the Google machine, and let's do LSU Stadium. So we got the seating chart. The first thing you need is a seating chart. So there's a lot of options out there. Some good, some, I'm indifferent about. What I look for is consistency in color. So you see these first two right here. They've got, all the sections colored in different categories. That's fine. And I'm not saying that they won't work. But I like, so this one right here, the purple and green one. This one is consistent. All the colors are the same. And what that's going to do is that's going to make a big difference when we're converting it and getting it ready to trace in Lightburn. So I'm going to copy this. And then my photo editing software that I use is Photoshop. This is not the only tool for the job. You can use any digital photo editing software. So we're going to open a new, create, and paste. I'm just comfortable with Lightburn, so that's what I use. We're going to clean this up a little bit. I start off by just getting rid of all the stuff we don't want in the maps. So logos, any generic text. So I go through and clean this up. I know a lot of people leave what I just deleted in there as part of their stadium, and that's fine. You can do that. I don't. I will add team logos myself. Just because that's my preference. So right here where it's kind of hazed out, I'm going to come in, select it, and fill it with a color to match it. So what that's going to do is that's going to help me out when it comes to tracing this. Okay. So we got it cleaned up. Looks pretty good. These suites, I'm going to want to fill in too, because that light gray is not going to come out when we go to trace. Video stations. Cool. So the next thing I do, and you don't have to, but what makes it easier for me is I go to image, adjustments, and I mess with the threshold. What this is going to do, as you can see, is it creates a black and white image. I don't know the scientific reasoning behind the threshold, what it's actually for in video editing, but this is what I use. So I just adjust it, and you'll get a feel for it. play around with it, mess around with it, see what you like. Um, what it does is it'll crisp up the lines around the sections and give us the perfect image to trace. So here we go. So we got a black and white image. Now what I do is, if you see down here, all the labels on the sections, I don't include the section numbers in my maps. A lot of people do, and I think a lot of people do because they don't know how to get rid of them. Um, so the first thing I do when I'm cleaning it up is I color it all black. And this is the first step, and you'll see why in just a second. So get those. And then, because you see those little overhangs right there, when we go to trace it, I don't want uneven sections. I want crisp, clean lines. So just like that, the selection and the delete, that's going to help when it comes to tracing. Let's go back over here. And then we're going to do the polygonal. To get some of these curved sections. And if you're not good with photo editing software, my recommendation, if you're taking your lasering business to the next level, learn it, because there's going to be a lot of tips and tricks that you'll see from other video makers, from other people around, asking how they got an image to look the way that they did. It's a great tool to have for your business. So as you can see, I'm just cleaning up some of these overhangs to make the sections look all uniform and crisp and clean. So just bear with me. And this isn't for every section. Usually it's the curved ones and the smaller sections when you have the seating chart numbers in them. Lip. So a couple more overhangs over here. And I know people are saying, well, what about the seating numbers? Um, this is my preference. I don't incorporate the numbers, the section numbers in my maps. Um, I think that when we trace them, it it doesn't come out clean. So I delete them, but that's my preference. You don't have to do so. Um, that's just something that I've just done with mine. And if you want to delete them and then go in and manually enter them in again, more power to you. Because some of them come out great and with the tracing, and some of them, they have opportunity. So it's definitely user preference at that point. But once again, this is just what I do. Okay, so let's get those Nope, those will be okay. Trace won't pick that up. I believe there's one more. So these little guys right here. Let's take a quick look at those. We're gonna have to fill in real quick with a pencil so we don't bleed out into the entire workspace. Just like that. I'm just filling in these little gaps with the pencil tool. So when I go to fill it, it doesn't run all over the place. Same thing here. Okay. So by doing that, you see it just looks like a hot mess. So let's clean it up. We are almost done with editing. Back to the pencil tool. Okay. Okay, so looks like I've got it pretty much under wraps. There's some little indents out there, and we'll be able to fix that in Lightburn. So once you have your image edited to your liking, we're going to take it and select all, Control C for copy, or you can go up to edit, and we're going to bring it into Lightburn, Control V. So now we have our image in Lightburn. What do we do now? So for those of you that know about tracing, here we go. For those of you that don't know, you can take any clip art image and basically vectorize it within Lightburn. There's intricacies to that, so you're not going to be able to vectorize a 200 color image and get everything crisp and pristine. But for basic clip art images, for logos, for simple designs, bring it in, right click and hit trace image. And what you see are these pink lines. That's going to be the preview of the vector. So I'm looking around over here. I missed those. I didn't clean those up. But that's going to be another tool where I can show you another cool little trick in Lightburn. So looks good to me. If you notice down here, we can kind of smooth it out a little bit. And our cutoff. Yeah, it does nothing. So we're just going to hit OK. I've got it set to fill. I always edit in line mode. So I'm gonna go back because I hit the smooth tool and I was playing around with it and it messed it up. So that's gonna reset everything. I clicked on that smooth and that's where the sections were rounded off. I didn't like that. So go back to line. Now they're crisp. So we've got the outline of our stadium. We've got the seats. We've got the upper decks, the press boxes, the field. Let's ungroup it. And what ungrouping does is I can take every individual item and move it around and tweak it and finagle it to how I want it. So the first thing that I do now is I go through and I get rid of all these seating chart numbers. Some of them you can do in one shot. Some of them you're going to have to, spend a little time on. Whoops. See how I deleted that box? And once you get good at this, you'll be able to make a stadium in, about 20 minutes, depending on the preferences that you want in yours. It's quite easy, um, but it just takes time, and it's the learning that takes the time. I could have probably spent a little bit more time, and I found really good seating charts that didn't have numbers in them, um, and it saved me a boatload of time. So if you want to do the hunting, you can do it. You can do it yourself. But there's a lot of opportunity out here, to make these for loved ones, for customers. Um, these files are copywritten, so I'm not saying the files. I'm sorry. These stadiums are, so even just to do the stadium with the name, even if you don't put logos in, that's still a protected um, entity. So be careful. With great power comes great responsibility. So I'll leave that up to you guys and girls out there. But it's a great opportunity to make, gifts for loved ones, for, family, friends, anyone. What I'm doing here is selecting a mass group of numbers, and if you hold down Control, you can go in. It'll deselect and reselect individual items without losing your entire selection. So that's a good little trick to learn. If you're not familiar too with your hotkeys, like your undo, Control Z, Control C, and Control V, Um, get comfortable with them because when you're designing these files, you're going to need those a lot. At least I do. Some of you probably are a little bit more meticulous than I am. I'm more of a cut twice, measure once kind of guy. So I believe in making mistakes and fixing them. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to delete the field, and I'll show you why in a second once I'm done cleaning these up. Just a couple more. And once again, this is my personal preference. Okay, so if you can see, these numbers are part of the outline. So we can't just delete them without losing the whole square. Okay, so we have all the numbers cleaned up. Now what we need to do is go in and kind of refine it a little bit. So over here, everything looks great. You'll notice these right here, these little, dips and divots. Some people don't care, like a little one-off or something like that. But when you're, trying to perfect your art, because, the best thing about these files is you do it once and you'll never have to do it again if you do it right. Um, we can kind of fix that and square it off a little bit more by using a tool called the node editor. So that is right here. You'll see the edit nodes come up when you hover over it. All those little hotkeys, the S, L, C, D, I, M, B, T, E, A, they all have different commands that it's going to give you. You can break apart the vector, so you can take uh, a dot here and a node here and separate it so it's open and it's not 100% connected. You can edit it to get these little uh, divots out. So I'll show you how I do that. I select it, then I hit the node editor, and you're going to see all these little, nodes around. So the brown ones and the green ones are the nodes. These are kind of little I'm sure there's a name for them. I don't know what they are, but what they do is they adjust the curvature. So see how I'm bending it and looping it around? So the easiest way that I do it to straighten it out is I delete those nodes. So see how I selected it? Or you can touch each one, click it, and hit D. You don't hit delete for this, you hit D. That's the command. And look at that. It connects to the next node in the sequence. So right there, boom. That one, crisp. So that right there with a couple clicks was easy to fix. So this is where, making your designs, little tweaks like this is going to take it from being, okay, to wow. So I'm just going through where I see the little, tweaks, and usually you'll see a bunch of nodes wherever you see those little, so like right here. I don't even have to zoom in. I'm just going in and deleting the mass. Because usually when there's 3 or 4 nodes, it's a bump, a tweak, something along those lines. So that took a little bit too much off. Now what I want to do is take this and I can drag it down to where it's supposed to be. So it's in line with this. And these right here, see how I brought it in to sharpen it? It was a curve. But if I tweak this in a little bit, it's going to make it a crisp corner. And that's because that node is designated as a corner. If you see over here, you can take any node um, and turn it by hitting C while you're hovering over it and turn it into a corner, which means you'll get a 90-degree angle on it. The other ones, I don't know what they're called, but you'll get a curve out of it. So if you're getting a curve and you want a corner, just hover over the node and hit C. Okay, so right there, couple tweaks. Select, And I'm just deleting these in groups. I'm not really tweaking them or doing anything like that. Just simply deleting them because it's going to give me what I need. When you're doing these, lasers on a piece of wood or something, depending on how big you're making it, it will stand out. And if you're okay with that, it's fine. If not, take the time once to get the file right. So if you notice right there, that's a curve. So remember the corner tool I told you? I'm going to hover over the node and hit C. And now when I bend these and bring them into perspective with a line, it's going to give me that sharper point. Let's delete that. There we go. Same thing right here. I'm going to drag that over to where it needs to be. Hit the C and bring it down. Crisp corner. And once again, it's just going to be, usually in my experience, it's the sections on a curve that you get the little dips and divots. But this is kind of why we did that threshold tool, um, because trust me, it would have been a lot worse had we not done that. So change that to a corner. That looks good. A couple more over here. All right, for the sake of time, I'm just going to kind of leave it at that. You guys got the gist of that. If you have questions, you can reach out to me anytime. But now we'll talk about doing the stadium. So the whole point of the stadium is to have different layers. So the first thing that I do is I'm going to start with layer one, which is the field. So what I do is I have a basic field that I use. Um, we'll just take it from one of these that I copy and paste into every single one. I drew it. It's a basic, simple drawing. Um, we'll take that, copy, paste, and then this field is editable to any team. If there's a logo or a field on a team that is, significantly different, then yeah, you can make your own. But here's the thing. Most football fields, whether it's pro, collegiate, or anything, have the same layout. So we'll just delete all these EMU. So we got a blank field. So the first thing we need to do is we need to put the logo. And this is a good opportunity to take a look. If you don't know the stadium, if you're making it for somebody, take a look at the field, what it looks like. So right here. So they've got the Tiger's Eye logo in the middle of their field. So that's something that we need. So let's go here. Let's just do LSU logo. So let's click images. We need a specific. Boom, right there. So this image right here, we're going to copy it and we're going to paste it. Control V. So there's two things you can do here. If you're looking for serious detail, you can leave this as an image and size it and fit it right in the middle of the field. Or it's usually going to be super small. So I want to have, definitive lines in it. So I trace it. And then I'll put that on the red layer, set it to fill. So I trace it just so it gives it more of a defined look. And I bring it down to where it sits in perspective to the field. So you can do that. You can take the box. Whoop. Yep, that's centered. You can use a centering tool. That's what I was going for. But it's kind of entangled in a mess right now. But that's pretty much spot on. So now what we look back at is, what do they got? They have the LSU logo, the letter logo. So we're going to go back to this. We got one right here. So we'll open that. We're going to copy it. And we're just going to do the same thing. Paste and trace. So for that, we'll rotate it 90 degree, negative 90, I'm sorry. Bring it over, and then we're going to scale it down. So it fits right in the middle. Let's make it a little smaller. Okay. So Control C, Control V, and then we're going to rotate that 180 degrees. So it is consistent. And if there's any LSU fans and you're saying that, those aren't the right logos, they change periodically. So I apologize. I'm not an LSU fan. But, that's what I got for right there. So delete this. So now what we need to do is, when you're building layers, there's, I like to call it the donut effect. You need to have cutouts. So the main cutout is, the profile of the stadium. So for that, what we're going to do is we're going to group everything in the stadium. So when you click it, every little thing is together. Then what we're going to do is we're going to select it and hit the offset tool. So I want my offset to go out of the original image. So inward would bring it in, outward would bring it out, obviously. I like the rounded shape a little bit better, but this is user preference. And I'm just going to kind of increase that. You see how it's growing? And this is going to give you that base profile image that we see a lot in these stadiums. And this is 100% adjustable to your liking. If you want to make it huge, if you want to make it smaller, you can do anything you want. So that looks good to me. I'm going to hit OK. And then it automatically selects everything. So I'm going to change it to green because that's what I like for my cut. And I just want to make sure. Sometimes you get little stragglers in here, depending on the complexity of your shape. So I don't see any. So we'll bring that back on. So the first thing we need to do is know our stadium. So we're looking at that. Now we got to figure out where the layers are. So LSU is kind of hard because, looking right here, that's one layer, but then On the back end, that's going to be a separate level. So we can do two things. We can make that one level and then hit these up for the second. The field is the third, and this is where you get the creative control. So for sake of time, this is what we're going to do. The first thing that I do is I take this profile, I control C, and I control V. I make a copy of it. And the reason why I do that is I'm going to use that as my frame for every layer. So to bring it back inside, you select the other one by holding control and hit the center. Now those two green lines are right on top of each other. So what I'm going to do to make a layer is ungroup that and select just the field. So the field is selected, and I want to select one of those green outlines. Look at that. So that's our base layer right there. Now what you can do to make your next layer is see this border right there. We're going to do the offset tool again, but this time we're going to bring it inward. And what that's going to do is when you have the layer with the first set of sections, you're going to have a cutout so you can see the field below. So if you look at that one right there, it brought it in too much. That's going to cover the field. So we're going to reduce that. We're going to try to get as close to that as we can. That's pretty good. And then we're going to change that to green. So now we're going to check our work. Whenever I separate a layer, I always group it so they're together. Now we're going to line this up. So what you're going to see is everything inside this green, so this blank space right here and the field, is going to be visible on our second layer. So now we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to make another layer. So Control C, Control V. So I've got that border, and you can either drag it or use the centering tool. Doesn't matter. And we're going to have to, so this right here, all these seats are going to be our next level. You know, let's get complicated. So I believe it's from here. Let's select those. We're going to make that half a layer, if you will. By holding Control, I'm able to make multiple selections. And I guarantee, I don't know how perfect you are, there's always going to be a straggler. Yep. So I just let go, hit Control Z. So those didn't select. And where was the other one? I know there was another one. Yep, right there. Control Z. We're going to select that guy. So now what we want to do is select this green one with it and one of the border pieces with that as well. And now guess what? We've got our second layer. So this one right here we can kind of delete. So it's more of a score or a scribe, if you will. You know what? I just thought about this. We're going to bring this in just for time purposes as a part of that level. I don't want to confuse people. I don't want to get, too crazy with this right off the bat. But you can tweak it around and make it how it's supposed to be. I apologize to any LSU fans if this is not how it's supposed to look. But you know what? That's the fact of the matter. So right now we need another cutout. We need to be able to see all of this right here on the next level. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to select this. ungroup it. And I apologize for for my inconsistencies. I do this a lot when I'm making my own. I make changes halfway through the design, and I'm sure many of you do as well. So let's take that. We're going to group it, and then we're going to use the offset tool again. And we're just going to go outward because we want to cut around it. And that looks pretty good to me. So we'll make that green. And we'll bring it in. And you can see right here, if you ungroup it, those are those little stragglers I was talking about earlier. So we don't want those on our final product. So that right there would be the third level. So now we got to think in a 3D environment, okay? So make sure every one of them is grouped. That's grouped. So start with our base layer. Then we're going to take our second layer, and does it match up? And what you're looking for is inside this green. Can you see the whole field? Can you see everything? That looks good to me. Now, the third layer. Let's take this and line it up. So looking at this green line, okay, you're going to be able to see this, which I believe is the screen. You're going to see the field over here. So this is a little off where it comes right to the sections there, and you got a little bit of wiggle room up here. So what I'm going to do is move this green one, ungroup, just down a little bit. There we go. That should be good. Let's try it again. Okay. So you see the gap right there. It's not perfect, but it's pretty darn close. So there you go. Now we'll take this one. Now you have 3 separate layers for your stadium. So you got the cutouts, so you're going to be able to see everything. This is going to be a big board with just a field in the middle. Then you're going to cut this one out, and it's going to be a little bit of a donut. So it's going to cut out here, and it's going to cut out in the middle. So then you're just going to glue this right on top. It'll line up. And then the last layer you have is going to be the big donut. You have a big hole in the middle, and that's going to go right there. That's going to give you that 3D effect. You can use it out of 3mm, 6mm, whatever you prefer to give it the look that you want. But that's how I create a stadium. And you can go in, and I've made them for people where, they were season ticket holders and they wanted me to mark, where they are, where their seats are. So I put little notes in there. I've had people that do request the section numbers on there. So I can do that for them. But when I'm just making a basic stadium, this is how I do it. I think it's quite simple. So for you guys and girls out there, have fun with it. Make mistakes. You'll learn from your mistakes. Most importantly, learn the tools that are in Lightburn, because once you can feel comfortable using tools such as the node editor and, editing vectors and tracing vectors and all that, the possibilities in this program are endless. It's not perfect by any means, but I'll tell you what, it's one of the best softwares that I've used for laser engraving. For imaging, for that matter, it's one of the easiest ways to make a vector file. Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop, it's a little bit tougher, and I know as we progress in technology, there's websites online that'll instantly do it. But 2 clicks of a button, and you got a vector in here, and you can scale it to any size you want. Importantly, for these files, if you want to scale it to, say your laser bed is only 8 inches, make sure you scale it all while they're connected. Don't do them individually by layer. Get them spot on, and then you can check your layer. Each one's going to be the same size no matter what. So this is a 4.7, let's call it, by 4.7. So, like I said, take the time, play around with it, have fun, but most importantly, learn your laser and learn how to use your tools while doing it. So, have a great day, guys. If you have any questions, reach out to me. I'm more than happy to answer them for you.